I never imagined I'd be the guy sharing a story like this, but here I am. Because sometimes, the people you trust most can shatter your world in ways you never see coming. What happened to me still feels unreal, and I'm guessing if you've been through something similar, you know exactly that gut-wrenching disbelief. I, 35M, have been married to my wife, Alyssa, 34F, for 7 years. We've been together for almost a decade. On paper, everything looked perfect. We had a decent house in a quiet neighborhood, a golden retriever named Milo, and we even hosted game nights every other weekend with our close circle of friends. One of those friends was Jason, 36M, who I've known since college. He was the ride-or-die type of guy, the one who helped me move apartments when I tore my ACL and stayed overnight in the ER with me when my dad passed. Things between Alyssa and I used to be solid. We were the couple people looked at and said, they just work. But in the last year or so, something started to shift. It was subtle at first. She became more distant, constantly on her phone, laughing at texts she wouldn't share, brushing off questions with "it's just work stuff." She got a little colder, physically and emotionally. The intimacy dried up, but she always had an excuse: stress, work, her migraines. I figured maybe we were just in a rut. It happens. You get busy, life gets in the way. But there was this nagging feeling in my gut that something wasn't right. I ignored it for months, because honestly, I didn't want to be that guy who accuses his wife of cheating just because she's tired or stressed. I told myself she was overwhelmed, that she'd come back around. I even planned a weekend getaway for us, just the two of us. She bailed last minute with some work conference excuse. Looking back now, I feel like the world had been whispering at me for a while, and I just wasn't ready to listen. But the universe stopped whispering soon enough. It screamed. So, here's where it all blew up. A few weeks ago, I was working from home and needed to print out some paperwork. Our wireless printer was being annoying, so I grabbed a USB flash drive from Alyssa's desk drawer to transfer the files. Harmless, right? The USB drive had a folder named Taxes 2023. I clicked it out of curiosity, thinking maybe she had some financial docs we hadn't filed yet. Inside were subfolders labeled weird things like house, receipts, and private. That last one caught my attention. Now, I'm not proud of what I did next, but let's be honest. If your spouse has a folder marked private, and your gut is already screaming at you that something's off, you're going to open it. I wish I hadn't. Inside were screenshots of text messages. Dozens of them. Between Alyssa and, you guessed it, Jason. At first, I told myself it couldn't be what I thought it was. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe they were planning some surprise party or something. But the texts were anything but innocent. There were messages like, "Last night was amazing. I wish I could have stayed longer. He has no clue. You're so much more than just his wife. I keep thinking about you in that dress," and out of it. I scrolled through page after page of this crap, feeling like my stomach was imploding. My hands were shaking. My ears were ringing. I could barely breathe. You know those moments where time kind of slows down, and everything feels unreal, like a dream, or more like a nightmare. That was me, sitting in my own damn kitchen, staring at proof that my wife was sleeping with my best friend. The same guy who helped me build our deck last summer. The same guy who high-fived me after every board game win and brought beers over to watch playoff games. The guy who hugged me at my wedding and called me his brother. I just sat there in shock for a while. I couldn't even cry. It was like my body had short-circuited. All I could think was, why? And then, how long has this been going on? I didn't confront her right away. For about 3 days, I walked around like a zombie. Pretending. Nodding. Smiling. Every time Alyssa spoke, I had to resist the urge to throw the USB at her face. Every time she kissed my cheek or said "love you," I had to fight back bile. I wanted answers, but I also wanted everything. The truth, the timeline, the extent of the betrayal. I needed her to dig her own grave, and she didn't even realize she was holding the shovel. So I started observing, noticing the little things I'd ignored before. She started locking her phone. She took long walks after dinner with her AirPods in. She smiled more at her screen than at me. And suddenly Jason wasn't around much anymore. He used to show up unannounced, grab a beer, talk crap about fantasy football, but now? Vanished. Radio silent. So I waited for the perfect opportunity. That Sunday, I told her I was heading to my brother's place for the day. I forgot my wallet and came back 20 minutes later. Alyssa was in the backyard on the phone, laughing. I stayed low by the window and listened. I miss you too. No, he bought the story like always. He doesn't suspect a thing. Silence. Then, God, I can't wait until we don't have to sneak around anymore. I stepped out through the side gate and walked right up behind her. She jumped like she'd seen a ghost. Who were you talking to? I asked calmly. She fumbled the phone and tried to smile like nothing happened. My mom. I tilted my head. Your mom calls you babe and wants to stop sneaking around? She froze. Eyes wide. Mouth slightly open. And for the first time, the mask slipped. That's when I told her. I found the USB. I read everything. There it was. Panic. Pure, naked panic. Then came the backpedaling. It's not what you think, Jason and I. It was just texting. I swear. I stared at her. He said last night was amazing. She blinked. Okay, it happened once, but it didn't mean anything. That was when I realized she was going to lie. Lie and lie and lie until the whole damn house burned down. I didn't even recognize the woman standing in front of me anymore. And I wasn't done yet. You've been sleeping with him for at least 6 months. Don't insult me. Her jaw clenched. She crossed her arms like a petulant teenager. Fine. You want the truth? I was tired of being your wife. You're boring. Jason makes me feel alive. That sentence hit harder than any punch I've ever taken. I stood there, silent. She flinched when I finally spoke. You just nuked your whole life, Alyssa, and I haven't even started with mine yet. You'd think the betrayal of your spouse is enough for one lifetime. But no. Turns out the universe had a second helping of hell waiting for me. After Alyssa's confession, or partial confession, she never actually owned up to how deep it went. She tried to spin it. Suddenly, she was confused, ashamed, just looking for something I wasn't giving her. Classic. She even cried. Real tears, maybe. Or she's just good at faking remorse. I wasn't sure anymore. I told her to pack a bag and go stay with her sister for a few days. She resisted, of course, said she wanted to talk this out like adults. I wasn't interested. I needed space to process. More importantly, I needed to find Jason. I called him the next day. He didn't answer. Shocker. I left a voicemail. Short and direct. I know everything. Call me. He texted an hour later. Can we talk in person? We agreed to meet at the old bar we used to hit in college. I hadn't been there in years. As soon as I saw him waiting at our usual booth, all the memories hit me like a freight train. This guy was at my wedding. He gave a speech. He toasted to forever. I nearly laughed. He looked nervous. Sweaty. Wouldn't make eye contact. The guilt practically oozed out of him. I'm sorry, he said before I even sat down. I never meant to hurt you. I stared at him. You've been sleeping with my wife. For months. You meant every bit of it. I didn't plan it, man, he said, like that made any difference. It just happened. One night she was venting, we were drinking. Don't. I raised my hand. Don't you dare blame this on alcohol or her emotions. You made a choice. He nodded, swallowing hard. I know. I hate myself for it. I leaned forward. Do you love her? Silence. That told me everything. I laughed bitterly. You do. Jason wiped his face like it would clear the shame. I didn't want it to go this far. I kept thinking we'd stop. Yeah? You think a surgeon halfway through open heart surgery says, you know what? Let's stop here? He looked like he was going to cry. I didn't care. You were my best friend, I said, my voice lower now. You were family. And you chose her over us. And then he dropped the second knife. She told me you cheated on her 2 years ago. She said that's why she came to me. I went numb. Because I've never cheated. Not once. Not emotionally. Not physically. Nothing. And just like that, I realized Alyssa had been poisoning him against me from the start. Lying to him. Rewriting our history so she could justify what she was doing. That's when the final puzzle piece fell into place. She'd been planning this. It wasn't a mistake. It was intentional. And that's when the idea for revenge started to form. Something slow. Something deliberate. Something she'd never see coming. After the bar meeting with Jason, I didn't blow up. I didn't punch him. I didn't scream. That alone probably threw him off more than anything. He expected me to lose it, but I didn't. I just stood up, said, we're not done, and walked out. Because I had a plan now. I wasn't going to scream or beg or fall apart in front of either of them. No, I was going to strategically dismantle their little fantasy world brick by brick. If Alyssa wanted excitement, I'd give her something to remember. First step, documentation. I spent the next week acting like I was processing. I told Alyssa I was considering therapy, maybe even marriage counseling. She bought it. Hook, line, and sinker. Started texting me little thinking of you messages, trying to act like the doting wife again. Meanwhile, I was quietly gathering everything. I copied every single file from that USB. I backed up her phone data while she was in the shower one night. I'd installed a recovery app weeks ago, just in case. I pulled deleted messages, hidden chats, even some pictures. Yep, they had taken hotel selfies. She was smiling in every single one. You know how hard it is to look at the person you used to love and realize they were having more fun being a liar than being honest with you? I reached out to a lawyer friend. Let's call her Maya, under the guise of needing a prenup reviewed for a buddy. She got the message. I asked her to check if Alyssa had started moving any money. Turns out she had. She was slowly transferring chunks from our joint account to a new one under her name. Like I said, this wasn't spontaneous. This was strategic betrayal. That's when I made my move. I told Alyssa I needed a few days away to clear my head and that I'd be staying at a cabin my cousin owns in the mountains. She said, "Take all the time you need," probably thinking I was going off to lick my wounds. But I didn't go to the cabin. I stayed in town, rented a cheap Airbnb under my brother's name. And every day I was gone, I had cameras installed in the house. Nothing illegal, just stuff in plain view. Baby monitors, motion sensors, a backup doorbell cam, because she'd disabled the first one months ago for privacy, which now made a hell of a lot more sense. I had one in the bedroom, the kitchen, even the garage. Then I did something petty. I left behind a note on her bathroom mirror with just 3 words. I know more. By the time I got back, she was a mess. But I wasn't interested in talking. I was interested in watching what she'd do when the house started to feel haunted by guilt. When I got back from my mountain retreat, Alyssa was all smiles, nervous ones. Her eyes darted like a guilty kid caught in the pantry. The note I left on the mirror? Yeah, that hit her like a sledgehammer. She tried to play it cool, though. Asked me how the trip was, if I found clarity. Oh, I found something all right. I told her I'd thought a lot, and maybe we should try counseling. Her face lit up like I'd just forgiven her. That moment told me everything I needed to know. She really thought she could slither out of this. No remorse, no ownership, just manipulation and performance. So I fed the act. I smiled more, talked about our future, asked her to cook dinner together, watch movies. I even gave her a back rub one night. While she slept, I watched the camera footage. And just like clockwork, 2 days after I got back, she invited Jason over. I was at the gym, supposedly. She even had the audacity to meet him in the driveway with a kiss. I watched them drink wine in my kitchen, laugh on my couch, and then disappear into my bedroom. I didn't even flinch. I just hit record. But this wasn't about catching them in the act. I already had that. This was about letting her dig deeper. About giving her more rope. See, people like Alyssa aren't careful when they feel safe. She thought I was defeated. She thought Jason was going to slide into my place once she wore me down. And just to test her nerves, I confronted her that night. Not about Jason. Just general stuff. "So what did you do today?" She blinked. "Just work. Laundry. Oh, I picked up groceries." I smiled. "Cool. Run into anyone we know?" She hesitated, barely. "Nope. Pretty quiet day." Liar. She had Jason inside her an hour before that sentence. Every lie she told now felt like a gift. Every denial, another notch on the post. I had the video files. I had the texts. I had her gaslighting me while our sheets were still warm from someone else. The best part? She thought she was winning. And that's when I knew. Revenge wouldn't be enough. It had to be art. I started the long game right then and there. If she was going to wear the mask, I'd hand her the glue. The next week, I turned into the perfect husband. I cooked breakfast, left her sweet little notes. I even brought her flowers, just because. The more affectionate I got, the more paranoid she became. I could see it in her eyes. She didn't know whether to feel guilty or scared. Maybe both. That's the thing about liars. They expect anger, rage, explosions. What they don't expect is kindness, so calm it makes them question their entire reality. And I played Jason too. I texted him. "I'm working on forgiving her. I don't want to hate you forever, man. Let's talk sometime." His reply? "Dude, I don't even know what to say. I feel sick about everything. I'll back off. I promise." I replied, "I'm not looking for a fight. I just want to move forward." He bought it. They both did. Meanwhile, I was still collecting. I had bank statements, screenshots of transfers, voice recordings, and a flash drive with timestamps of their every visit. I even caught one of their phone calls on my secondary device. Jason, he doesn't suspect anything, right? Alyssa, he's clueless. I almost feel bad. Jason, almost. Alyssa, laughing, he's so busy trying to save the marriage, he doesn't even realize it's already dead. That laugh. That damn laugh. I played that audio for myself before bed like a war drum. Then I started phase 2. I called her boss and arranged for flowers to be delivered from her husband, sent to her office with a note that said, "To my beautiful wife, who makes life worth fighting for." I wanted everyone in her life to believe we were solid, just in case she had a backup story brewing. Because when the collapse came, I didn't want her crawling out of it with sympathy. I wanted people to ask her what the hell she did. Behind the scenes, I made a private video compilation. All of it, messages, footage, voice memos, even that awful little hotel selfie where she was wearing my hoodie in bed with him. I labeled the folder just in case. And then, I started working on my exit. But not before setting the stage for one final act. Something public. Something unforgettable. Because betrayal hurts. But humiliation? That scars. You ever seen a snake smile? That's what Alyssa looked like the day she came home with a bright idea. She walked in, dropped her purse, kissed my cheek, and said, "I think we should throw a party. You know, to celebrate our anniversary next month. Show people we're still strong." I damn near choked on my coffee. She wanted me, the man she was actively cheating on, to plan a celebration of our love with the same friends and family who toasted us on our wedding day, including people like Jason, who'd be smiling and shaking hands like nothing happened. It was too perfect to pass up. I agreed, enthusiastically, told her it was just what we needed. And I meant it, just not the way she thought. We picked a date, sent out digital invites. I even created a cheesy Canva graphic of us holding hands on a beach. Alyssa posted it all over her social media like the doting wife she pretended to be. The comments were sickening. Couple goals. True love exists. You two are such an inspiration. If they only knew. The guest list included our usual circle, friends from work, neighbors, a couple of my cousins, and yes, Jason. I made sure of it. Even texted him directly. "Would mean a lot to me if you came, man. I want to rebuild." He replied within minutes. "Of course. I'll be there." Oh, he was going to be there all right. In the meantime, I kept the show going at home. More flowers. More affection. I even suggested a couple's massage. Alyssa was practically glowing. I think part of her actually believed she'd gotten away with it. That I had either forgiven her completely or never truly knew the depth of her betrayal. That's what made it delicious. I started prepping the video files for a single clean presentation. Cut the fluff. Tightened the timeline. Added dates and times. Overlaid screenshots with the corresponding audio clips. Topped it off with the photo of her and Jason in a hotel mirror, her grinning like a teenager, him holding a bottle of champagne I paid for. I uploaded the final version to a private link with one instruction. Play me. No password. No title. Just truth. And then I printed out one single QR code and placed it inside a little white envelope marked, "A toast to honesty." The party was days away. And Alyssa? She had no idea the wrecking ball was already swinging. The day of the anniversary party arrived, and the house looked picture perfect. Alyssa went all out, catered food, candles everywhere, soft music, a little slideshow of our best memories playing on the living room TV. She wore this silky red dress she used to save for special nights. Funny how it used to make me weak. Now it just reminded me of the dress she wore in one of the hotel photos, with Jason's hand on her thigh. Guests started pouring in around 6 p.m. Neighbors, co-workers, mutual friends. I smiled, shook hands, made drinks. Played the gracious, devoted husband role flawlessly. People hugged us, said we looked stronger than ever. I almost admired her ability to beam like she hadn't been stabbing me in the back for months. Jason showed up around 6:45. Alone. That surprised me. I half expected Alyssa to accidentally be in the kitchen when he arrived, but she kept her distance. Maybe she was nervous. Maybe she was smart enough to know not to get too cozy. I greeted him like a brother. Pat on the back, smile on my face. We took a group photo on the patio, just like old times. Nobody could have guessed I was shaking with adrenaline under it all. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. I stood up by the fireplace, tapped my glass, and smiled at the room. "I just want to thank everyone for coming," I began, holding Alyssa's hand. 7 years, it's a long time. Marriage isn't always easy, but I think it's important to be honest. Brutally honest, even when it's hard. Alyssa squeezed my hand, probably thinking I was about to cry or say something sweet. I continued, and that's why I wanted to give a toast tonight. But instead of rambling, I figured I'd let this do the talking. I pulled out the envelope from my jacket and handed it to my cousin, who I'd quietly asked to play the video through the smart TV. I nodded. He scanned the QR code with his phone, and the screen flickered. At first, the room fell into silence. Then, the opening clip rolled. Text messages between Alyssa and Jason. Photos. Audio recordings. Timestamps. That mirror selfie. Jason kissing her neck. Her saying, he has no clue. Their dirty talk. Her saying she wished I'd just disappear. Alyssa gasped. Jason stood frozen, jaw slack. People turned in their seats, horrified. Alyssa tried to grab the remote, but I had it in my hand. She actually lunged toward the TV. Too late. The room exploded. People started shouting. One of her co-workers whispered, "Oh my God." My aunt covered her mouth. Someone dropped a wine glass. I just stood there, calm, still holding my drink. When the video ended, I said one final line. Here's to 7 years and knowing when to walk away. And I walked right out the front door. I didn't go home that night. I drove straight to my brother's place. He already had a guest room ready. I didn't say much. Just walked in, dropped my bag, and sat down on the couch. He handed me a beer, sat next to me, and said, "That was the most savage thing I've ever seen in my life." We didn't talk about it much. We didn't need to. The silence was enough. My phone blew up. Missed calls, voicemails, text after text. Alyssa, Jason, her sister, even a couple of mutual friends who'd watched the whole thing unravel like a bad reality show. Alyssa's first message. What the hell did you do? You humiliated me in front of everyone. Second, we need to talk. Please. I can explain. Explain? She already had. Every text, every lie, every moment of laughter she shared with Jason instead of me. Jason didn't text until the next morning. Dude, I don't even know what to say. I'm sorry. You went nuclear. I didn't respond to either of them. Instead, I texted Maya, the lawyer friend. It's time. She replied instantly. Already drafted. Sending it now. I had divorce papers ready before the party even started. All I needed to do was sign. She'd already worked out the financial strategy, given the evidence I had. Proof of infidelity meant I was in the clear. I'd even protected most of my assets by quietly shifting funds and changing permissions months ago. She'd get what she deserved, less than nothing. I let Alyssa stew for 2 more days. Then I went home, packed what little I wanted, and left the rest behind. Left a manila envelope on the dining table with the signed divorce papers and a post-it note that said, "You earned this." When I left, she was sitting on the stairs. No makeup, puffy eyes, wearing one of my old t-shirts like it meant something. "I messed up," she whispered. I didn't even look at her. "You burned it all," I said. "Now you can sit in the ashes." After dropping Alyssa, I figured Jason was next. He was still lurking around town like a bad smell, trying to patch things up with mutual friends and acting like the good guy who got caught in a bad situation. Nope, I wasn't about to let him skate. I invited him out to a man-to-man talk under the pretense that maybe we could salvage something from the wreckage. When he showed up, nervous and fidgety, I was calm, collected, and ready. I laid it all out. The timeline, the texts, the hotel pics, the lies she told him about me cheating, false, of course. I made sure to mention that I had documented everything. Every transaction, every secret meeting. Jason swallowed hard. I could see the guilt eating him alive. But here's the kicker. I told him there was one last thing he could do to help himself. "I'm giving you a choice," I said. "You can come clean publicly, tell our friends and family what happened, take responsibility. Or I'll make sure everyone sees the full package. The lies, the cheating, and the betrayal from both of you. No filters." He hesitated. Then, shockingly, he agreed. We drafted a public apology together. Well, mostly me writing it and him signing off. It wasn't easy for him. He looked like a kid caught with his hand in the cookie jar. Only this cookie jar was filled with years of lies. But this was the last sting. I made sure the apology included the truth about Alyssa's lies to him, exposing her as the mastermind of the whole mess. I wanted the world to know exactly what kind of person she was. Once it went live on social media, the reaction was swift and brutal. Comments poured in. Mutual friends unfriended both of them. Work connections sent awkward messages. The reputation they both cherished? Gone. Watching Jason squirm through it all was oddly satisfying. Not because I wanted him to suffer, but because it was fair. For once, the truth wasn't buried under excuses and lies. With Alyssa gone and Jason publicly exposed, I was left with a house that felt like a stranger's and a heart that felt like it had been smashed into pieces. The silence was deafening. At first, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floorboards sounded like a reminder of the betrayal. I kept catching myself reaching for my phone to text her, or him, but I didn't. I deleted their numbers. I spent days wandering the empty rooms, trying to remember the man I was before all this mess. The guy who loved game nights, who planned trips, who dreamed about a future with his wife. Not this shell of a man who felt like he'd been gutted. But slowly, little things helped. Milo's goofy antics. My brother's relentless support. The nights I forced myself out to the gym and pushed harder than I thought I could. I started therapy, not just because it was recommended, but because I needed someone to help me navigate the mess inside my head. And I learned something important. It wasn't my fault. I wasn't the boring husband Alyssa claimed I was. I wasn't the one who destroyed us. I was a man who deserved honesty, loyalty, and respect. From there, I made a promise to myself. To rebuild, not just the house, but me. No more lies. No more pretending. Just the truth, raw and unfiltered. After months of therapy and quiet reflection, I began to see the fog clear. I reconnected with old hobbies I'd abandoned. Painting, hiking, and even dusted off my guitar. Those little joys reminded me who I was beneath the rubble. I also started dating again. Not rushing, not looking for a savior, but just meeting people, making connections, and learning what I wanted. The scars Alyssa and Jason left didn't disappear, but they faded. I realized they were a part of my story, not the whole book. One day, I caught myself smiling genuinely at a sunrise and thought, I'm going to be okay. It wasn't just about moving on. It was about moving forward. I shared my story here because I want anyone who's been blindsided to know this. You're not alone, and betrayal, no matter how painful, doesn't have to define you. If there's one thing I'd tell anyone going through this kind of nightmare, it's this. Trust your gut. If something feels off, don't brush it away. Sometimes that nagging feeling is your subconscious protecting you. Document everything. I know it sounds paranoid, but having proof saved me from a lot of pain and gave me power when I needed it most. Don't rush to forgive or forget. Healing takes time, and it's okay to put yourself first. You don't owe anyone your peace. Revenge might feel good, but it's a double-edged sword. My artful revenge gave me closure, but I had to be careful not to lose myself in it. Remember, the goal isn't to destroy, but to reclaim your dignity. Surround yourself with people who lift you up. My brother, my friends, my therapist, they kept me grounded. And finally, know that you are worth more than someone who betrays your trust. You deserve honesty, loyalty, and love that doesn't come with a side of lies. This experience tore me apart, but it also rebuilt me. And that's the kind of strength no cheater can take away. If you're reading this, maybe you're in the middle of your own storm. Maybe you've just found out your partner is cheating. Maybe your world feels like it's crumbling under the weight of betrayal. I want you to know this. You will get through it. It will hurt like hell, and some days you'll feel like giving up. But inside you is a strength you don't even realize you have yet. Hold on to that. Don't let anyone diminish your pain or tell you to just move on. Take your time. Feel everything. Cry if you need to. Rage if you must. But also remember this. You deserve better. You deserve respect. You deserve truth. And when the dust settles, you'll come out stronger. Maybe not the same, but stronger. Because sometimes, the worst betrayals are just the beginning of the best chapters. Stay strong, Reddit. And don't forget to look out for yourself first.